from the Saltburn.
Hello everybody, I hope you're all well. So, Saltburn. Do I need to say any more? If you haven't been living under a rock, then you should know. Saltburn, directed by Emerald Fennell, it just released last year. It was also written by Emerald Fennell as well. Has become an absolute sensation on social media. Everyone on TikTok seems to be talking about it. All content related to Saltburn seems to be doing really, really well as well. It even led to Sophie Ellis-Bextor's song Murder on the Dance Floor re-entering the Spotify Top 100 like over 15 years after its release. And I went into this film really, really excited. I love films about the upper classes and I love class commentary. I love black comedies. I also heard a few songs from the soundtrack on TikTok and I absolutely loved it. I also love Jacob Elordi. Also, I love the fact that films about like the mid 2000s and early 2010s are beginning to become a thing because like that was like to my childhood. So I went into this film with really high expectations and I think maybe that's what the problem was, but I left it quite disappointed. And when I checked the reviews on Letterboxd, there were so many positive ones that honestly I was starting to feel a little bit gaslit. And I want to review it for you guys today for anyone that also disliked the film, like some Saltburn dislikers, nation rise up. Also, I just want to say, yes, I forgot to bring the plug for my studio light, which is why we're using natural lighting today. I'm not sure how I feel about it, to be honest. I like everything to look the same. I hate change. So sorry if like this is annoying, but also like it's kind of like fresh, do you know what I mean? But anyways, I know that I'm gonna have to start this video out with a lot of disclaimers because I know there are a lot of people who really, really love Saltburn, and I just want to make it clear that if you love this film, that's absolutely fine. Good for you. I'm happy for you if anything. Nothing's worse than when you sit down and watch a film for 2 hours and you didn't like it. That's why I'm making this review. I think I'm like sunken cost fallacy. Like I'm like, well, I dedicated 2 hours of my life to it, so I better make a review. Please do not get angry or offended that I did not like this film. Of course, please share all of your opinions in the comments. That's what I love the most about making these videos for you guys. But please do it respectfully because I heard that the Saltburn stars ran IO off of Letterboxd, so I'm scared, you guys. And of course, this video is going to contain spoilers for Saltburn. So if you want to watch the film first before watching my review, go do that, but then come back. And also, I am not a film critic. This isn't coming from like a pretentious film bro place. This is more coming from a place of I did not really enjoy this film and I want to share with you guys why. Like guys, I gave Babylon 5 stars on Letterboxd. Like I know how to have fun. And just before we get into it, I would love to thank Lalo for sponsoring today's video. Lalo are about everything pleasure for everyone. And if you don't know, Lalo is actually the parent company of Intermina, and I work with Intermina all the time. I love working with Intermina, so I was so excited to be working with Lalo today. Lalo wanted me to tell you guys about their Enigma Wave toy. This is actually Lalo's first ever triple motor toy, and there's loads of technology that goes into this thing. This is genuinely the most high-tech toy that I own. There is wave motion technology in this toy, which means that the vibrations move more like a very satisfying wave, so you don't get too overwhelmed, because I get overwhelmed really, really easily. And speaking of getting overwhelmed, my favorite thing about the Enigma Wave is the sensonic technology, which is used for the outer stimulation. Basically, the toy offers fast but very gentle outside stimulation without making any direct contact. That's the key here. And I don't know about you guys, but that's such a green flag to me. The Enigma Wave also has an ergonomic internal stimulator, which is fully flexible for ultra powerful internal stimulation. And this toy also offers 8 different pattern modes, so you can play around and see what works best for you, because everyone is different and you have full control over the speed and intensity. And I've said this on my channel before promoting toys, but you do not have to use these alone. You can use these with a partner or partners, or you can use them alone. What I will say is that Valentine's Day is coming up, so I feel like this is a really, really good gift to get a partner, but I also think it's a good gift to get yourself. Like girlies, we are getting Valentine's presents for ourselves this Valentine's Valentine's Day. Lalo are always offering discounts and gifts with purchases. And not only that, but Lalo have very kindly given me a discount code to share with you guys. If you use the code Jordan10, that's JORDAN10 in all capitals, you will get 10% off any Lalo purchase. Thank you again, Lalo, for sponsoring today's video, and let's get into it. Before we start on what I did like and didn't like about the film, let's just run through the premise quickly. So Saltburn follows our protagonist Oliver Quick, played by Barry Keoghan, and it's his first year attending Oxford University. He's the class of 2006, and he is having a lot of trouble fitting in and making friends. Oliver is from a working class background. Both of his parents are addicts and suffer with mental health issues, and he's also at Oxford on a scholarship. And it basically acts like a don't be friends with me force field. People often refer to Oliver being at Oxford on scholarship in a derogatory way. People often refer to him as, oh, the scholarship kid. Oliver has a chance meeting with Felix. Felix's bike tire is punctured and Oliver offers him his bike. And then they very quickly become friends, and Felix ends up taking Oliver under his wing and being very distressed when he finds out about Oliver's home life. Felix invites Oliver to spend the summer with him at his family countryside estate, Saltburn. And the rest of the film basically follows Oliver's summer at Saltburn and the twists and turns that come with it. Let's start out on a positive note here. Let's start out with all the things that I liked about Saltburn. Firstly, and I think this is a given, a really, really great ensemble cast. There wasn't a second that the acting took me out of it. I thought everyone's acting performances were really good. Obviously, we had Barry Keoghan, Jacob Elordi, but there's Felix's mother, Elspeth, who's played by Rosamund Pike. Felix's father, Sir James, played by Richard E. Grant. Felix's sister, Venetia, played by Alison Oliver. Felix's American cousin, Farley, played by Archie Madekwe. And at Saltburn, we're also introduced to Elspeth's close friend Pamela, played by Carey Mulligan, who also played the protagonist in Emerald Fennell's last film, Promising Young Woman, and the family butler Duncan, played by Paul Rees. I thought all of the acting performances were really good. I was also really impressed by the accent work. Jacob Elordi's posh toff accent is so good. Dead Relly, Daddy's Teddy. I kept forgetting that Jacob Elordi is Australian. I was also in complete shock when I found out Alison Oliver was Irish, and Archie Madekwe is British, so his American accent was also really good. I thought all three of them did a really, really good job. They didn't falter for a second. I know that Barry Keoghan's accent has been up for debate. I thought he was just talking in his Irish accent, but apparently it was meant to be Liverpudlian. Dead Relly, Daddy's Teddy. And whilst we're on the topic of Jacob Elordi, I really enjoyed his performance. I thought, again, he played that like posh toff. Clearly he's a little bit embarrassed of his wealth, but not embarrassed enough to give any of it up. I thought it was so good. I really, really liked it. And I do hope that Jacob Elordi takes more roles like this. I think that he actually plays a British person so well. I think he's just really on fire at the moment, and I'm actually really looking forward to seeing what other projects he does next. Like, I cannot believe Felix, Nate Jacobs, same person. But the performance I easily enjoyed the most was Rosamund Pike's. If Rosamund Pike was not in this, I probably would have switched it off. I think Rosamund Pike really injected humour into this film where it really desperately needed it. Because I'm going to keep it real. I found Saltburn to be a little bit boring before Rosamund Pike's character entered, and after she was introduced, literally every scene I was waiting for her character, which I feel like is a sign of a really good performance. And obviously it goes without saying, Saltburn is a really beautiful looking film. I actually found out that the cinematographer is Linus Sandgren, who was the same cinematographer for Babylon, and I love that film. And Babylon is one of the best looking films I've seen in years, especially that opening sequence. Saltburn was shot on 35mm film, and I do think that Sam Levinson has slightly tarnished using film and shooting on film, because the second season of Euphoria was shot on film, and a lot of people say that season 2 of Euphoria was style over substance, which I agree. But I actually love when media is shot on film. I recently watched Blue Valentine. If you haven't seen Blue Valentine, it's basically about the start of a relationship and the end of that relationship, and great film, highly recommend. I found out that all the beginning of the relationship scenes were shot on film, and all of the the end of relationship scenes were shot on digital. And basically you're meant to sort of have that feeling of like, you know, that sort of dreamlike wonder of the honeymoon phase. That's the sort of feeling you're supposed to get when you're watching the beginning of the relationship. And at the end of the relationship, not only did they shoot it on digital, but they had these really close up shots, which made you feel like really claustrophobic and that you were just like dying to get out. I like media being shot on film. I like the way it looks. Again, I'm not an expert, but I like the way it looks. I feel like it shows like the true like grittiness of a scene. And I'm pretty sure Emerald Fennell told the cinematographer Sandgren that the words that she associated with the film were like hair and sweat. And I feel like the cinematography really portrayed that very well. There's almost like this smoothness to shooting on digital, which isn't present when you shoot on film. I feel like film has like a lot more like grittiness and texture and maybe even more contrast as well. And I think that really worked in Saltburn's favor. Saltburn has a 4:3 aspect ratio, I believe. And again, I'm going to be honest, these are my confessions. You know, when you're watching a movie that you're not really enjoying and that things that would not piss you off begin to piss you off. That was me with the aspect ratio. I felt like the aspect ratio was getting a bit pretentious. Like I was literally like, oh God, so pretentious. But when I did my research, I found out why they chose that aspect ratio. It actually makes a lot more sense and I can actually appreciate it a bit more. Emerald Fennell says that her and Sandgren chose that aspect ratio because the house is very tall and she wanted to show the full height of the house, but also she wanted the characters to remain sort of very close together. And also where they shot Saltburn, the house had very square rooms. So again, the aspect ratio really complemented that. To quote Linus Sandgren for the rap, it's very much about Oliver and one other person that he singles out, like Felix. So what's kind of beautiful, especially for close-ups, is a square format that doesn't show more than one person. Even the wide shots, you see 5 people sitting on the sofas, but then you see a lot of headroom and a lot of house around them. It's almost like the house is more important than the people. That's going to live forever. They're not going to live forever. The Saltburn soundtrack. Yeah, they ate that one thing. Like banging, yeah. Because I've already said I love that films are now beginning to be set in like the mid 2000s, early 2010s, because like these were my formative years. This is my childhood, and the Saltburn soundtrack was genuinely full of banger after banger. Murder on the Dance Floor, Exceed Perfect, Sound of the Underground. The Cheeky Girls Have a Cheeky Christmas. Fun fact, circling back to Exceed Perfect, this song, I used to listen to it back when I was 16 and I really, really wanted like a Summer Rae Instagram ass. And I started doing the 30-day squat challenge. Yep, there's a old relic for you, the 30-day squat challenge. And I used to blast that song to get me motivated. And when I started listening to it again because of the film, I genuinely feel like my legs started aching. Like it was like muscle memory. Loneliness, Time to Pretend, MGMT. Like this soundtrack really... it brought up some memories, some happy memories. I loved it. You know, it got me listening to a lot of songs that I haven't listened to in years, and I have like a major appreciation for that. The score, honestly, I was pretty unmoved. I was neither here nor there when it came to the Saltburn score. But if we take a step back again and start talking about the fact that this film is set in 2006, I really, really liked the makeup and hair and costumes. Can you call it that? I just love seeing Jack Wills on the big screen. Like, sorry, but that is just funny. I love Felix's shaggy 2000s hair and his eyebrow piercing. And oh, okay. So... I could not have timed getting an eyebrow piercing more poorly, because you know the amount of people, I got this done in October, you know the amount of people that messaged and asked me if I got an eyebrow piercing because of Saltburn? Like, guys, this is not okay. But anyways, Felix is wearing bootcut jeans. Like, that's just so funny to me. Also, Venetia's outfits. Yeah, Indie Sleaze Queen. I just love the accuracy to mid-2000s British fashion. I also liked the promotion for Saltburn. I like all of the posters that I've seen. I think that they're fun. I think that they're very enticing and that it makes you want to go and watch it. And that's exactly what a movie poster should do. And I like the premise. I like watching films about the upper classes. It's such an interesting and layered setting that you can really get your teeth into and have a lot of fun with, which is why I thought that I was really going to enjoy Saltburn, and I was left pretty disappointed. And I think above everything, the film just fell really flat, especially because of the class commentary, or what I would refer to as the complete lack of class commentary. So let's get into what I didn't like about Saltburn. Before we get into the class dynamics of it all, which is my main contention with Saltburn, let's talk about a few things that I generally just didn't really like. Firstly, I found Saltburn to be pretty slow starting, in my opinion. The first sort of, I'd probably say, 45 minutes of Saltburn is set at Oxford University, which I feel like, again, great setting, so fun, and I just found that it was falling a little bit flat. I was getting a little bit bored, and I found myself in the film looking and waiting for when they all went to Saltburn, and I was like, okay, so the film's gonna kick in now, which I feel like isn't a good sign. I don't know, I feel like it had a lot of potential. I think one thing I didn't like was that I felt like the party scenes that existed were overcut with a score and a monologue, which is actually one of my biggest pet peeves, and this happened a lot in Euphoria as well. A lot of the party scenes and scenes which I think would have really benefited from dialogue was just overcut with a monologue and a score. I just hate it. Okay. I also found that Saltburn occupied a very awkward middle ground. It was sort of a drama, comedy, thriller. But in my opinion, I found that it wasn't funny enough to be a comedy, wasn't entertaining enough to be a drama, and wasn't thrilling enough to be a thriller. And look, I love when films try to be a bunch of things at once. I love black comedies, I love horror comedies. A film that I watched really recently was Ready or Not, and I absolutely loved it. It's basically a horror comedy, and what I loved about Ready or Not is the fact that it really fully dedicated to both of the genres it was trying to be. The comedy scenes were really, really funny. They really, really made me laugh. But the horror scenes were so blood-curdlingly, gut-wrenchingly horrified that, okay, I'm about to pull out my drama A-level knowledge on you guys, but I loved the juxtaposition, and it was just such an entertaining watch because it would bounce from one to the other. Saltburn never really dedicates or commits to the genres it is trying to be. What I think Saltburn does best is comedy. I think that Rosamund Pike's scenes were hilarious. I would even go as far to say that this film is worth watching for Rosamund Pike alone. And I also thought Jacob Elordi's performance as Felix, that oh, I'm so embarrassed of my wealth. I thought that was actually really funny. Emerald Fennell clearly has a knack for writing comedically. And I think that Saltburn would have worked best as a comedy drama rather than trying to be all three and not really doing any of them that well. To discuss Saltburn's handling of class, we're going to have to talk about the two main twists of the film. I know I've already given a spoiler warning, but spoilers ahead. Spoilers ahead. The first twist of Saltburn comes when Felix surprises Oliver for his birthday by driving him up to Merseyside to reconnect with his estranged mother. Earlier in the film, Oliver has not only revealed his past to Felix, that both of his parents are drug addicts and suffer from mental health issues, but also early in the film, Oliver's dad died. And because of that, Oliver had not spoken to his mum in a really long time. So Felix is driving Oliver up to Merseyside, and they pull up to Oliver's family home, which is this new build. And this really made me laugh because Felix goes, "Oh, mate, she's sorted herself right out." And that really made me laugh. And it is revealed that Oliver is not working class at all. His parents are not drug addicts. His parents do not suffer from mental health problems. His dad is very much alive, and he's not even an only child. He has siblings. I could see this twist coming, but I still thought it was done pretty well. I thought it was sort of a fun little twist of the film. Again, Jacob Elordi really made me laugh in that scene, but I also did really like Barry Keoghan in this scene because on the sofa, you can see he's just trying to fold himself in half. His body is so visibly uncomfortable. After this reveal, Felix is understandably absolutely fucking fuming. So he tells Oliver that after Oliver's birthday party at Saltburn, he has to leave. And the last, I'd probably say like 40, maybe 50 minutes is when everything comes to a head. After Oliver's birthday party, Felix is found dead in the family maze. And I thought the morning after was done pretty well as well, when Oliver looks out the window and sees Venetia and Farley wading through the water. Your heart sort of like sinks a little bit and your stomach drops a little bit. Oliver tells Sir James that he saw Farley giving Felix drugs, which leads Sir James to banish Farley from Saltburn and cut him and his family off financially. Shortly after Felix's death, Venetia kills herself in the bathtub. And after Venetia's death, Elspeth becomes very reliant on Oliver, but Sir James wants Oliver to leave. And because Oliver refuses, Sir James has to bribe him to leave, which he accepts. There's around a 15-year time skip, and Oliver reads in the newspaper that Sir James committed suicide and ends up running into Elspeth at a local cafe by chance. And Elspeth is so pleased to see Oliver that she actually invites him to spend time with her at Saltburn. Elspeth becomes terminally ill, and whilst she's terminally ill on a ventilator, Oliver reveals to her that the entire demise of the Catton family was down to him. Oliver punctured Felix's tyre, which led to them meeting in the first place. Oliver framed Farley for trying to sell the Cattons stuff, and also framed Farley for Felix's death. Oliver had actually poisoned a bottle of Prosecco it's definitely champagne. Oliver actually poisoned a bottle of champagne that he gave to Felix. Oliver had also left razor blades on the bathtub where Venetia was, which led her to commit suicide. And he had even planned his chance encounter with Elspeth at the cafe. Oliver pulls out Elspeth's ventilator, killing her, and he ends up inheriting the entirety of the Saltburn estate and the Catton wealth. And the film closes with Oliver dancing naked around the mansion to Murder on the Dance Floor. Already, I didn't like this ending. Like, it didn't gag me. I sort of was just staring at the TV like, what? And when I first finished this movie, I very much took it as a tepid take on the class revenge genre. Because after it's revealed that Oliver's middle class, you aren't really rooting for him anymore because he lied. But also beforehand, you aren't rooting for Oliver either. He's a creep. He's extremely unlikable. Like, how in this class revenge film am I siding with the rich people? Tell me, please. I have seen a lot of people arguing that Saltburn is not meant to be a class revenge film. And you know what? Now that I've done my own research, I agree. I don't think that it's meant to be a class revenge film. But Emerald Fennell herself says that Saltburn is meant to be a class satire. But it really begs the question of what class is she trying to satirize here? Firstly, I have seen a lot of people argue that Saltburn is not meant to be a film about class in the first place, especially after it's revealed that Oliver is not working class. He's in fact middle class. It sort of breaks down the class disparity and dynamics between Felix and Oliver, right? And Oliver and the Cattons. Now, do not get me wrong. If you're middle class, your life is a hell of a lot more easier than if you're working class. But there's still a huge class and wealth disparity between Oliver and the Cattons, even when he is middle class. Him being middle class doesn't all of a sudden absolve this problem. Oliver is far closer to being working class than he is to being upper class. I don't know whether Emerald Fennell wrote Oliver being revealed to be middle class just for the sake of a plot twist, just try and gag the audience, or whether to make the whole murdering the Cattons go down a little easier and trying to sort of eliminate that class disparity between Oliver and the Cattons. But it just does not work, because even when Oliver is revealed to be middle class, he is still miles down below the food chain from the Cattons. And it's a shame, because I actually think there's a lot of interesting things to say about the British middle class. The middle class was literally manufactured. It was manufactured in the 80s by Margaret Thatcher to basically break up the proletariat class. Margaret Thatcher and many politicians after her really sold the idea of class mobility. And this has led to a majority of the middle class population turning against the working classes, usually through like fear-mongering of newspapers and TV shows. And a lot of the time, this fear-mongering of the working class always relates to benefits. If you're not from the UK and you don't know what benefits are, it's basically like the welfare system of the UK. And it's not just middle class people. A lot of working class people get up in arms about the benefit system as well, about people that are benefit scroungers and spongers and people who sponge off the government and don't work, even though a majority of people who are on benefits in this country actually have jobs. And again, a lot of the people who are on benefits and don't have jobs have a very good reason to. Sometimes they're disabled, they're sick, they have kids, they don't have time to work. Sometimes people fall really, really hard in life and need government support. And this, media landscape, TV, newspapers have really made people hate people that ask for help and need help. But anyways, these policies and this creation of the middle class has worked so well that middle class people genuinely see themselves as having more in common with the privately educated, posh Etonian twats that run this country than a working class immigrant family. And I have seen some people argue that Oliver wanting to do everything he can to obtain the Catton's wealth is like a representation of the desires of the British middle class. But honestly, I did not get that from this film at all. And I think it might be giving it a little bit too much credit. We never truly got to see the dirty side of the Cattons. All we do see is that they can be classist and brash. Felix clearly has a savior complex, but this is never really deeply explored. We never find out why he does this. We never find out what happened to the other people that he took under his wing before Oliver. Does he have some level of guilt over his wealth? Is he embarrassed? Does he like having a friend who he is more powerful than? And because his friend is, staying in his lovely big home and accepting money from him sometimes, does that give him a sense of power and entitlement over his friend that he likes? We never explore these, again, really interesting dynamics. Venetia is implied to be really manipulative, but again, Oliver breaks her down really quickly. We never get to explore this side to her. Elspeth and Sir James, again, very brash, very out of touch, says very classist things. But again, it's nothing too shocking or like horrible. And Farley is mean. He's mean, and we're shown a very small conversation between him and Felix over the fact that he feels uncomfortable being the only black member of the family that has to ask for money and financial support. And again, so interesting to explore, but it's just sort of left at that and not explored any further. And just like nearly everything in Saltburn, it is so quickly brushed under the rug. And the thing is, I am not totally against portraying rich people as likable or nice. I find that when you separate anyone from the policies that they stand for, everyone behaves like a fairly normal person. It actually reminds me of the show I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. If you haven't watched this show before, it's like a British reality show, and basically they send like a bunch of like D or C-list celebrities into the jungle, and they have to like live in the jungle for a month and do bush tucker trials where they like eat kangaroo bollocks and stuff. And I absolutely hate this show because every year ITV are dead set on doing what I describe as a Tory rehabilitation program, where they bring on conservative celebrities or disgraced conservative politicians, or most recently, they brought the ex-leader of UKIP, Nigel Farage, onto the show. Not only do they pay them loads of money, but they end up getting into really good public favor, because again, when you separate someone from their policies, they are just a regular person. So it's literally like clockwork. Every single year, people will vote Matt Hancock to eat a bunch of kangaroo bollocks, and then when he's shown to be a normal person, they go, oh well, he's not that bad, is he? He's not that bad. And it's just like, oh my God, like, how many deaths is he responsible for? Matt Hancock, Mr. COVID man. Oh my God. I have read a few articles sharing the same sort of critiques and qualms and like sentiments that I felt about Saltburn, which I was really happy about. I'm glad I wasn't alone in this. One of the articles is titled, "Saltburn's critics are right. The film is gorgeous, but it whitewashes the ugliness of the upper classes," by KJ Yossman. And I'm going to read a few excerpts for you guys, and I'll leave this article linked down below too. So I wasn't entirely surprised to see Fennell's dark satire get some flack since its release, particularly in the UK, for failing to adequately skewer the upper classes while depicting scholarship kid Oliver Quick, played by Barry Keoghan, as a vampiric con artist. His mark, the blue-blooded Felix Catton, Jacob Elordi, is kind-hearted and goalless, a cross between Princess Diana and Harry Enfield's comic creation, Tim Nice But Dim. The film also sidesteps the sense of entitlement that permeates the upper classes, causing them to behave in ways that normal people can't get away with, the kind of behaviour depicted in Lone Sherfig's The Riot Club or Evelyn Waugh's Decline and Fall, both also set in Oxford and depicting the antics of privileged posh boys. In Saltburn's paradigm, it's the middle classes who are predators, with Oliver sexually imposing himself on Felix's sister, cousin, and even his grave. The worst you can say about Felix is that he's promiscuous, and even on coke, we never see him indulging in the kind of predatory conduct that wasn't uncommon in the VIP rooms of Oxford students and bars and clubs. Although Saltburn has been billed as a successor to Wells' Brideshead Revisited and isn't shy about it, within the first act, Felix claims his rallies were the inspiration for Wells' novels, the British author was scrupulous about depicting the upper classes in all their cruelty as well as their absurdity. Fennel only ever shows us the latter. Even Elspeth's barbs about her daughter Venetia's eating disorder and her friend Pamela's death are delivered with enough wit to endear her to the audience. And something I've seen argued on social media a lot is there has been an uptick in rich people doing like the murder on the dance floor trend, where they dance around their massive mansions on TikTok to the song Murder on the Dance Floor. And I've seen a lot of people saying on Twitter that these people are missing the point of Saltburn. Oh my God, like imagine completely missing this point of Saltburn. But I'm here to argue, guys, that maybe there wasn't a point to Saltburn. What point was Saltburn trying to make? If you know a middle class scholarship kid at uni, make sure you lock up your doors. Now, people bringing up Emerald Fennell's class has proven to be quite controversial. I've seen a lot of people tout it as misogynistic, and look, I don't agree with writing Emerald Fennell off because of her class. If anything, I think rich people should be making movies about rich people shit. Like, going to Oxford, going to private school is Emerald Fennell's lived experience, so she should be writing stories about it. But I do think that Emerald Fennell's class could have played a role in how Saltburn shaped out. Emerald Fennell is the daughter of high society jeweller Theo Fennell, whose clients include Madonna and Elton John. He was also known as the King of Bling. Emerald Fennell boarded at the same private school as Princess Eugenie and Kate Middleton. She also went to Oxford. And I don't think it was Emerald's intention to miss the mark when it comes to class in Saltburn. But Emerald herself has spoken about unconscious class solidarity, which I think is something that may have happened when she was making this film. I honestly think it just needed a little more time. One of the reviews that I read said that Saltburn just needed a little more time to cook. The only character which is deeply explored is Oliver, which is why we see this horrible side to him. And with the other characters, we never really scratch the surface of who they are. We never get to see these horrible sides to them. And just because we would see a horrible side to these characters doesn't mean that you can't still humanize them. But I think the real lack of character exploration in Saltburn is what really let this film down. When I shared over on my Instagram my thoughts on Saltburn, I had a few people message me and tell me that the film is not meant to be about class, that the setting is just the upper class, but it's not meant to be a film about class. It's not meant to be a class commentary. But the thing is that if you set a film in the upper classes and have your protagonist not be of their class, middle class, working class, whatever class, he is not upper class and he is so far off being upper class, it is going to be a film about class. It's going to be a class commentary whether you like it or not. Like, above everything, I just found this film to be a little bit mediocre. I read a really good review of Saltburn over on Dage Digital. It's by Patrick Sproul, and I'm going to read an excerpt for you guys. It's all oddly conservative, despite the characters not actually being conservative. There's none of the xenophobia and bigotry you would expect from a couple named Sir James and Lady Elspeth Catton. Saltburn briefly gestures to the family's disconnect with Farley, Archie Madekwe, their black American cousin, then quickly moves on before committing to anything. There are some details that make Saltburn stand out. The turnover of a footman is notoriously high, but there's the distinct sense that Fennell is too close to figures like the Cattons to land the necessary punches. Richard E. Grant was quite literally cast after knowing Fennell and her family since she was a child. It starts as a stylish arc social satire and ends with a literal victory dance, but never bothers to justify anything along the way. It's a satire that never bears its claws, never lifts a finger to criticize these people. I think it was Patrick who described Saltburn Saltburn as impressively apolitical, and I could not have worded it better. I also just realized I completely forgot to talk about the disturbing scenes, which I feel like is what loads of people were talking about on TikTok as well. And I feel like this is pretty telling of my overall watching experience of Saltburn, is that I was so like unmoved and unimpressed that I wasn't even thinking about the disturbing scenes when I finished the film. All I was thinking was, I really didn't enjoy that. But if we just talk about the disturbing scenes for a second. So like the 3 disturbing scenes are referred to as the vampire scene, the bath scene, and the grave scene. So the vampire scene is Oliver going down on Venetia while she's on her period, which I did not find that disturbing at all. And I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, it wasn't even that disturbing. Sorry, Oliver is just trying to break down the stigma surrounding periods. #Intermina. And the bathtub scene is when Felix is in the bathtub. Oliver goes into the bathroom afterwards and sucks up the bathwater from the plug hole. And the thing is, this is not even the cum that's bothering me. It's the plug hole. Like, plug holes are so unhygienic. And then the grave scene is when, after Felix dies, Oliver with his grave. Those 2 scenes, it wasn't that I didn't find them disturbing. And it's not like I'm going to sit here and be like, oh, guys, that wasn't even that disturbing, because those kind of people are just annoying. But in my opinion, if you're going to put scenes like this in your film, you've either got to have people absolutely hate them or absolutely love them. Me leaving this, not even thinking about them, and then being like, oh yeah, that happened. I feel like, again, it's not a good sign. And I feel like, again, like a lot of other aspects of this film, it just fell really flat for me. So to conclude this video, to finish this off, I thought maybe as someone with 0 qualifications, I would share what maybe I would change about Saltburn to make it a better film. First of all, I think I would completely take out the thriller aspect. I think the thriller aspect was when it really started to derail, unless you're going to fully dedicate to it. But honestly, I think Saltburn would have benefited the most from character exploration of everyone fairly equally. Of course, we're going to see more of Oliver because he's our protagonist, but again, it just felt so lacking, and that we really were only scratching the surface of these people. I left the film not really knowing anything about Felix or Farley or Venetia or Elspeth or Sir James or the butler. Like, I felt like I didn't really know anything about any of them. And even Oliver's characterization, it's just, he's so crazy and he wants to be rich. Like, again, could have been so much more with that. Could have played a lot into sort of the British middle class commentary that I was discussing earlier. I even think something that would have made this film really interesting is that, and again, I feel like everyone's going to like leave comments like, Jordan, you shouldn't write films. Okay, fine. But I feel like something that would have made this film quite interesting was if you wanted to keep the thriller aspect to it, maybe have Oliver also be upper class, but have him be like of a slightly lower grade upper class. Maybe his family are in debt, because let me tell you guys, a lot of upper class people, yeah, sure, they are materially rich, but they actually don't have a penny to their names, some of them, and a lot of them are in like a lot of debt. And maybe it would have been sort of like that competition between Felix and Oliver. But personally, I feel like, again, you could keep Oliver being a different class to the Cattons, but if you explore the Cattons fully, again, a real dynamic that I thought was such a shame to not explore was Felix's savior complex. And it would have been so interesting to come across another like sort of working class boy that Felix took under his wing, and like the effects of that, and maybe again see this horrible side to Felix of feeling like he can treat almost his lackey however he wants, because he's giving him these amazing life opportunities that he would not have without him. But yeah, God, sorry, I really went off on a tangent, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I actually really enjoyed reviewing this film for you guys today. And if you want me to review more films, please let me know. But yeah, don't forget, like, subscribe, comment. Also, I forgot to say thank you so much for 500,000 subscribers. That's so crazy. I appreciate every one of you, and I will see you soon for another video. Bye.